Every 10 minutes, somewhere in the world, a Bitcoin miner finds a new block. We all know transactions are in those blocks. But what else? Today, on this focus episode, I want to focus on exactly that. HashrateUp, hardware sales, advisory, hosting, and site brokerage. Find new and used ASIC deals through the website and the Telegram channel below. Make smarter decisions with HashrateUp. All right, so first up, we have the version number. You can think of this as a software number. Essentially, the miner is telling the network which rules this block is following or which version this Bitcoin block was mined under. Recently, I did an episode with Bob Burnett where we talked about miner signaling, and this is exactly where miners can signal by switching specific bits in that piece of data what version they would like to see adopted going forward. Next up, we have the previous block hash. We're talking about a blockchain. There needs to be something that links the chain pieces together, links the blocks together. This is exactly that. The previous block hash is included in the block header of the currently being mined block to make sure that there is a reference to the last block and it's not possible to mine the blocks by themselves. This chain, as we know, goes all the way back to block 0, and all the previous block hashes are included in every block along the way. And so this makes sure that if somebody wants to change something in the Bitcoin blockchain, that they have to start right at the beginning. Next up, we have the Merkle root. You can think of this as a hash that combines all the transactions in the Bitcoin block. So all the transactions get paired up and then hashed until you reach the Merkle root. And that is what is being included in the block header. So what that does is that we don't have to check every block individually as we go, but we can just check the Merkle root for any changes. Because if one of the transactions included in this Bitcoin block changes, even by a single digit, the entire Merkle root will also change. Why we do this? We do this for efficiency reasons. If one of the Bitcoin transactions changes, even by a single digit along the way, now the entire Merkle root hash changes as well. So this makes sure that we only have to check the Merkle root instead of having to check constantly all the Bitcoin transactions that the miner selected for the block. This is something we can explore in a separate focus episode where we can go into the Merkle root itself. So next up, we have the timestamp. This is just to signal to the network the time at which this block was created. This is also used in difficulty computations to make sure that we're always reaching that 10-minute target, right? So if the average difference between the blocks was higher or lower than 10 minutes, the difficulty adjusts accordingly. So here, the Bitcoin network allows for some flexibility. The timestamp cannot be more than 2 hours in the future and has to be after the median of the last 11 blocks. The rules around the timestamp have to do with a specific attack on the Bitcoin mining network, which is another thing that we can explore in a separate focus episode. After that, we have the difficulty target. This is the target that the miner enters here to make sure that it follows the current difficulty target of the network that the nodes around the world agree on. If this target is set incorrectly, the block will not be accepted. The lower the target is, the more difficult it is to mine Bitcoin blocks, the more difficult it is to find Bitcoin blocks, and the higher it is, the easier it becomes. This difficulty target is derived from the current difficulty, but the difficulty target and the difficulty themselves are separate things. Last but not least, we have the nonce. This is the bit of data that gets iterated, meaning this is the data that changes trillions of times a second. If you own and run a miner with 270 terahash and S21XP, for example, that means that that miner hashes 270 trillion times a second, and that means it's changing the nonce 270 trillion times a second to arrive at a specific outcome that shows the network that you reached the difficulty target. BitX, solomining.de, got it. Premium, made in Germany. You want to go fancy? Go for NerdX or NerdQX++ for a lot of power. Worldwide shipping. Check out solomining.de today. So after what I've just explained, I want to go with you guys to mempool.space to look at a block in more detail. Right, so here we have all the previously mined blocks. You can do this until you reach block 0. we're not going to do that. It's going to take a while, right? So the last block mined was block 940536. And we can see some basic data here, right? So we can see the average fees that were paid. We can see that it consisted of 1,823 transactions. We can see the total fees here and when it was mined. So 22 minutes ago. If we click on that block, then we can see more details, right? So we can see what hash won this block, right? We can copy that and look at it in a separate file. It's a number that starts with a lot of leading zeros. It's a hexadecimal number, so it includes letters as well as numbers. We can see the timestamp at which it was mined, right? So 23 minutes ago. We can see the size, weight, the health, another issue we can get into separately. You can see the fee span here as well. So the lowest fee was 1 sat per vbyte, and the highest fee paid was 650 sats per vbyte. The median was about 1. Currently, fees are very, very low. So make sure that you clean house and consolidate your transactions to avoid high fees later. Total fees paid, 0.022 Bitcoin. Subsidy plus fees, so that's 0.022 plus the current subsidy, 3.125 Bitcoin. You can see total fees again. And then down here, you have all the transactions, right? And notably, you always have in every block, the first transaction is always the coin-based transactions, right? So this is where Bitcoin enters the world, previously held by the network and now dished out every 10 minutes, currently 3.125 Bitcoin being mined. And that concludes it, right? So to go back, we have in the block header, we have the nonce, difficulty target, timestamp, Merkle root, previous block hash, and the version. And then the block itself consists of the block header and the transactions. So I hope that helped. Let me know if you have any questions or if anything remains. Leave your comments down below. I'm sure there is more details to be added by you knowledgeable folks. That being said, have a great day and a wonderful week. See you later.